Welcome to the Liberation.Tech podcast, brought to you by Jordan Nuance LLC and hosted by Dr. Renee Jordan. This podcast is a accumulation of Dr. Jordan's dissertation work and her passion for empowering Latinas, Afro-Latinas, Black women, and girls to navigate the academic and professional worlds with confidence and success. Whether you're a mother or guardian guiding a child through grades 6 through 12, an undergrad or grad student, someone working on a dissertation or thesis, or simply looking to carve out your niche in the career landscape, this podcast is for you. Each episode, Dr. Jordan shares her story, offers invaluable advice, and provides practical coaching to help you thrive in school, work, and beyond. Join our community on patreon.com/BlackLiberationTech and become a member for as low as $5 per month. As a member, you'll gain exclusive access to live recordings, impromptu academic and career coaching, and a network of like-minded individuals committed to mutual support and success. You're also welcome to follow Black Liberation Tech on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Visit black-liberation.tech for even more information on Dr. Jordan's adventure in Inglés o Español. Tune in, get inspired, and let's embark on this journey together. Welcome to black-liberation.tech, where your success story begins. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the black-liberation.tech podcast. I am your host, Dr. Renee Jordan, and I am in Maui and thought that I would go ahead and share my ride to Waianapanapa State Park. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. It has black sand beaches, and I'm very excited to see it. So today I am going to go ahead and talk to you about myself while hopefully giving you a good view of what's happening as I drive. For those of you who are listening, I want to encourage you to go ahead to my YouTube channel at Black Liberation Tech in order to see what I'm talking about. I understand that the drive is beautiful and I have a little ways to go from the hotel, so thank you for tuning in. Now, if I had to talk about a blog post today, I would share with you the one that I wrote a few iterations back of my website. I did not save it, unfortunately. I had a hard time changing the domain over from WordPress to GoDaddy. And so when I get ready to do something, I just move. I don't wait, because if I wait, then chances are it will take me a very long time to get back to it, or I might not do it at all. And so in my attempts, it was saying, oh, I have to wait something like 90 days, and that was not going to work for me. So my website went from being jordannuance.com to jordan-nuance.com as a result. So long story short, my first blog post on that website, it talked about my decision to move to Atlanta, Georgia. I had been watching House Hunters, as well as all those other shows on HGTV that talk about, oh, you can buy a house here. It is only 25 miles outside of the city of Atlanta, and it costs this much. And I was like, oh my gosh, you could buy a house for how much in Atlanta? So I was definitely interested in moving to Atlanta myself, because the price of houses seemed to be so affordable in comparison to Prince George's County, where my parents lived. And because I was curious about it and I was a teacher, I started looking at what that could look like for me. So I was in school at the time, getting a master's of education, secondary education, curriculum specialist at Bowie State University. And I came to know what was happening in my classroom in terms of the required curriculum and the stress on testing and what it meant to have a standard in terms of what students need to be able to achieve in terms of a certain level of proficiency in order to move forward as it related to not only the class and their understanding of biology, but also to pass the state test. And so when I found out what they needed in order to pass the state test, I was like, you know what? Who is making up these rules? Because you all are acting like this is something that is so important, and you're constantly wanting me to test the students to the point where I'm like, when are they going to have a chance to learn? If they're always taking a pre-test, a post-test, a test, a middle of the test quiz, and everyone had to be on the same page at the same time as far as the curriculum was concerned. As far as the curriculum was concerned, it seemed like they were stressing, testing, and honing in on the minutia of biology, as opposed to when I asked students what they really wanted to know, which was about themselves. And so, don't get me wrong, we did go over human anatomy, but when I took biology, human anatomy stretched across the entire year. And we would look at different body systems and the cells that have specialized functions in those systems, and go from cell to tissue to organ system to the whole body. So we would follow that trail, and while we got to the little details, we always kept the bigger picture in mind on how things worked together. And then we would take a look at the human body and compare it to other species, specifically plants, and the way plants complete similar functions in their own way because they have their own set of specialized cells. For example, I didn't understand why we were emphasizing mitochondria so much in comparison to the whole muscular system. It got more airtime than the entire muscular system. For those of you who are biologists and those who know, go ahead and type your comments in the comment section. Yes, mitochondria are important, and they are found in more than muscle cells. But if you know what I'm talking about when I say anaerobic respiration and aerobic respiration, then you get where I'm going. So I was like, who is deciding what gets taught in my class and for how long? One day I happened to run into one of my cohort members from my alternative teaching certificate program. The Prince George's County Resident Teacher Program included the necessary courses that I needed to take as far as reading and special education was concerned. They also provided us with sessions that taught us about pedagogy and things of that nature that I would need to know in order to be a highly qualified instructor. Yes, I had a bachelor's in biology, but if you major in biology, they don't necessarily teach you how to teach. And so the resident teacher program provided me with the rest of the information, training, as well as teacher shadowing opportunities in order to become a highly qualified teacher. Now, just a short side story to the bigger story. When I was preparing for the Praxis test, I knew that botany was not my strong suit. However, I went ahead and I took the test, and I didn't pass the biology section the first time. I did pass the reading, comprehension, math, and writing section of the Praxis 1. So the general test. But the content specific test for biology, I did not pass it the first time. So I took it a second time. The second time I took it, I missed passing by 1 point. And something told me, turn the results over and take a look at how the topics are broken down. On the back, it had a breakdown of the different topics that were covered by the test and what I scored on each topic. And lo and behold, plant biology or botany, that was the section that I needed to improve on. And I knew that going in. So, any of you who are taking standardized assessments, standardized tests, and there are different parts to the test or different topics, if you will, covered on the test, take a look at the breakdown of the test and see how much of each topic or each aspect is covered. For example, I haven't been keeping up with the SAT, but I understand that it went from being a reading and math test to reading, math, and writing. and they've taken the writing out and they've put it back in. So make sure you take a look at what is included in the SAT. Some schools have moved away from requiring SAT scores. Some say it's okay if you complete it, but they look at the whole picture. So make sure when you are getting ready to go to school, you take a look at what's required. Or when you're getting ready to take a test, take a look at what's required by the test, what topics are covered, what percentage of the test or how much time do you have on each section of the test. Please do the same for the ACT, the LSAT, MCAT, and all of those other tests. Make sure you take a look and see how much of each topic is covered and what your strong suits are. So if you're taking a standardized test and there are different sections to the test, make sure you study the most on whichever section is not your strong suit. So in my case, it was plant biology or botany, and I needed to study more on that topic than the rest. It wasn't that the other topics didn't have their challenges, but they were easier to me in comparison to plant biology. So after taking a look at the breakdown of the results, I made a special effort to study plant biology more than I had done previously when preparing for the test. And as a result, the third time was the charm, and I passed the test. Now, I'm going to have to return to the story about how I ended up in Atlanta in the next episode. And I'll also talk a little bit more about preparing for tests. Until next time, I do want to encourage you to take a look at any standardized tests that you need to take. Take a look at the different topics that are included in each section of the test. Determine what you know the most about and what you know the least. What skills do you have and you feel comfortable with when it comes to completing the test, and what skills do you need to develop further? When you study, emphasize those things that are not your strong suit. Study for the entire test, meaning make sure that you cover all of the topics, but spend the most time on what gives you the most angst, whatever gives you the most challenge. Spend most of your time there so that you are preparing yourself in a way that will help you to be more successful than if you did not spend more time on the section that you needed the most help with. For those of you who are teachers, think about the things that you learned that help to make your subject area fun. And wherever possible, include that in your lessons. Even if you only have time to spend 5 to 10 minutes on it, do that, especially if you are in a highly tested area. I'm grateful that things have changed in terms of the requirements as it relates to testing. With the No Child Left Behind, it was almost like an all or none effect when it came to my school in Prince George's County, Maryland. However, when I came to Georgia, it was a little different. The students had to take the test, but the test was a part of their grade. And if they did not pass the test, as long as they passed the class, they were able to move on and graduate. However, in Maryland, they had to not only pass the class, they also had to pass the test. That meant even if they passed the class, they still had to take the test over and over again until they passed it as well. When I was in school, we had to take the LSN government test, we had to take a reading and a writing test, and we also had to take a math test as a part of the Maryland state tests required to graduate. Now, we had classes that were connected with those tests. However, in class, I don't remember the state test being emphasized as much as I had to emphasize it as a teacher. So when I took the LSN government test, unfortunately, I didn't pass it the first time. But the second time, I made sure that I studied on my own, and I took it another time and I was able to pass it. And as a result, on my report card, you could see where I passed the Maryland standardized test when it related to LSN government, reading and writing, as well as math. And that was a good way to move as far as I was concerned when it related to the amount of stress that was placed on students and what I could observe as it related to the amount of stress that was placed on teachers in order to push passing the test. But at any rate, I also want to encourage anyone who's interested in becoming a teacher, if you have the degree, see if there's an alternative route that can help you become fully certified. Sometimes there are alternative teaching programs. You also could go back to school and get a Master of Arts in Teaching, so that the combination of your undergraduate degree and the Master of Arts in Teaching will allow you to be highly qualified. Take a look at the requirements for your state and see what programs the state, as well as counties or the city in which you want to teach, might have in order to help you along your way. For those of you who are teachers, I want to encourage you to look at affordable housing. There are different programs out there for educators, as well as police officers, as well as firefighters. They want to have you in their community. So take a look and see what programs are available to help you obtain affordable housing, or even grant opportunities that will help you with a down payment. If you're looking for housing, make sure you go exploring. Don't just take the hype, meaning whatever you see on TV or come across on social media. Go do some investigation. When I moved to Atlanta, I started off in student housing that was off campus, just so I could get my bearings. And I explored those different places that were highlighted on the different TV shows. And when they said 25 miles outside of Atlanta, they meant from the furthest point of Atlanta. They were far away. And for those of you who know anything about Atlanta traffic, it is nothing to play with. And so while those places did have affordable housing, I needed to think about what kind of commute I wanted to have, knowing that I would have to drive to work. Now, when I first started in Atlanta, I was fortunate enough to work south of the city. That meant I was taking 75 south in order to get to work and to come home. Going south had far less traffic than going north. And so that made my 35-mile commute manageable because I was able to keep moving. I wasn't stuck in traffic. I spent a whole year and a half looking around Atlanta for the perfect place, and I was able to find it and purchase it at a very reasonable price. And I'm glad that I had a realtor who knew my budget and stood up for me when it came to even having to find alternative financing options when the original financer, which I was pre-approved for, backed out at the last minute. I hope that the circumstances under which teachers teaching biology has changed and that it is much more relaxed. Perhaps it was the schools that I was teaching in and not necessarily something that was felt across the board. Please feel free to leave your comments in the comment section on my YouTube channel or any of my social media pages. I mentioned my preparation for the Praxis and how I had to take a closer look at how the test was broken down in order to study strategically. So, for those of you who are taking SATs, ACTs, LSATs, MCATs, etc., focus on the areas that you need to improve based on the test weightage, meaning how much does each section count? What percentage of the test does it make up? How much time do you spend on each section? And for those of you who are taking tests that are on the computer, please get your typing speed up. You don't want to miss out because your typing speed isn't what it should be. Please be sure to take a look at the free typing softwares that you can use online or even download in order to help you with your typing speed. One of the things that helped me in undergraduate school with typing speed was instant messenger. Now, I'm someone even with my text messages, I use complete sentences and I spell everything out. One of the reasons for that is because I have dyslexic moments where I can make spelling mistakes, or I can leave out a word or add a word, or if I'm editing something, I don't remember to take out the part that's supposed to come out. I just start typing what needed to go in. And so I have to be careful when I'm typing. And so because of that, I type everything out, not just in emails and when I'm writing a formal paper, but also when I'm doing text messages. So I want to encourage you to get your typing speed up if you are taking tests that are on the computer. I also want to encourage you to understand your strengths and your weaknesses ahead of time. So, but way before you take the test, don't just walk in and take the test, but prepare yourself. Think about who you are as an individual when it comes to doing different topics, specifically things like writing, reading, and math. When I taught, there was an overwhelming emphasis on standardized tests, and that shaped what the curriculum and the student experience looked like in my classroom. When I learned biology, it was a joy. I enjoyed the stories that my teacher would tell about things that he experienced as a football coach as it related to human anatomy. I enjoyed the different labs that we got to take advantage of and the dissections and using the microscope. A part of my frustration with the curriculum was that it seemed rigid. The test-focused approach in schools was not something that meshed well with my personality. I wanted to emphasize the joy of learning, specifically the joy of learning biology and all of the cool things that you can find out. And so when you focus on tests, specifically tests that are itemized, meaning A, B, C, D, it seems to suck the fun out of it. But for those of you who are in the classrooms, I want to encourage you to weave into the curriculum as much as possible those things that you love, those things that you enjoy. And even if the students don't make your subject their favorite, show them how it can be someone's favorite by the wonders that it has to share. It's important to ask critical questions like who decides what gets taught and for how long. And if you find out who those people are, think about, is that a space that you want to enter? And so I went into public policy in order to learn more about it and find out if I wanted to be a part of those who decided what gets taught and for how long. Now, that information that I learned from my public policy master's program was invaluable. It opened my eyes to a world behind the Masters of Education that I did not see previously. Above all, I am an advocate for more balanced and engaging and relevant curriculum that empowers students to connect with what they are learning. So as a result, whenever I talk to students, I encourage them to go with what they're interested in. Find out where they fit as it relates to the topic that they're studying. And if they have a chance to do a project on something that they get to pick and choose out for themselves, and then tie it back to what they're learning in class. So it's something that they can be proud of. For those of you who are listening, I want to encourage you to think about your own educational journey. How can you take control of your learning? Feel free to share this episode with someone that you think it might help. Thank you for tuning in to the preparation.Tech podcast, brought to you by Jordan Nuance LLC and hosted by Dr. Renee Jordan. We hope today's episode has inspired you and provided valuable insights to help you navigate your academic and professional journey with confidence and success. Remember to like, subscribe, and share, as well as rate and review the podcast to help it become more discoverable. Whether you're guiding a child through grades 6 through 12, tackling undergraduate or graduate studies, working on a dissertation or thesis, or exploring your career options, this podcast is here to support you every step of the way. Join our community on patreon.com/Black Liberation Tech and become a member for as low as $5 per month. As a member, you'll enjoy exclusive access to live recordings, impromptu academic and career coaching, and a network of like-minded individuals committed to mutual support and success. Don't forget to follow Black Liberation Tech on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Visit black-liberation.tech for even more information on Dr. Jordan's adventures, available in both English and Spanish. Stay inspired, stay empowered, and keep moving forward. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.